We need to talk about people saying Jung Kook is mad after allegedly being stalked at the airport. We have people being scared that Jin is in danger of war after South Korea fires missiles, and then RM expresses disappointment after working on a project. So hey dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Hater or not, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, hey Splingmug merch, and let's go! The more interviews that RM does of Indigo, I feel like it has given the album a lot more depth. Obviously, we can have our interpretations of any piece of art and we can live in that fantasy, but it's also interesting to see and hear what the original artist's fantasy was. Sometimes it's better not to know though, right? But in this case, I'm happy to know. Indigo represents RM's true self with many colors, many of his thoughts and dreams, and just sticking true to himself. He's been open and honest about things, and things that I would imagine some people might be upset about. His thoughts on dating, marriage, and his thoughts about feeling confined in a boy band, and just talking about subjects that K-pop idols avoid. I am loving the little snippets and episodes that RM does with these shows, and even shows he does on his own are quite creative and fun. Artists have to not only think and be creative when making their music, but with the rollout of the promotion of the album, they have to think about what concepts and ideas are going to go viral and promote the album. This is why you have artists, when they go on talk shows, try to be as funny as possible and tell funny stories. This is in hopes that either news will cover it, or it'll be the headlines for the day, and then it will drive traffic to the album. Or the little talk show moment will go viral on social media and drive traffic to the album. A little example of this, in case you want to know, is Paris Hilton. She walked into a talk show wearing 2 different pairs of shoes. Paris Hilton, fashion icon, 10 stylists and wardrobe people looking her up and down, making sure she is perfect, but she still walked out with 2 different shoes. This was on purpose, and every media outlet spoke about it. And I think she was on tour for her book or something, which drove a bunch of new attention to her book. K-pop idols tend to avoid any situations like this as they don't want the idol to appear clumsy or ditzy. So what K-pop idols do are more intentional ideas that make them seem super smart. Those are harder to do because you have more people trying to compete and appear smart than when you're trying to look ditzy. RM decided to release a Bangtan Bomb episode and then got a lot of attention because of how clever and creative it was. The episode is where RM, Suga, and Jimin decided to collab and work on the style of album art that Indigo used. So if you look at the Indigo cover art, it's blue with the words in white. This type of art is called cyanotype, and the Bangtan Bomb episode can be a little confusing if you don't know what this type of art is. But it's basically a style of photography. You are developing your own photo using light and then also objects. Objects in which you want to imprint on a piece of paper. You put a bunch of chemicals on the paper, and then that starts white and then processes in the sunlight to turn blue. So if you put an object in which you want to imprint on the paper when it's white, and you let the sunlight turn everything else around the object blue, then when you lift the object off the paper, everything the object covered stays white and everything else around it turns blue. So you can put flowers, and the flowers will be white with a blue background, or you can get really creative and put shapes like squares and circles to paint your own photo and make something that can't physically be placed on a piece of paper, like a sunset or something. It will come out similar to if you've seen those sunburn tattoos where it just darkens your skin except for the part that is covered. So it's interesting that RM was doing cyanotype, because if it wasn't for this video explaining that this was his process for the cover art, I think most of us would have assumed it was some digital art or an actual painting. So this brought the album more to life and the whole aspect of him loving museums and art. So Suga and Jimin also created something cute, but there was barely any sunlight the day they did it. And you could tell that RM's face was disgusted. He was not happy with how everything turned out. He mentioned how it would have been better with more sun. Obviously, they were not expecting this result. The paper they did was white. The chemicals didn't process enough to show blue, which is also confusing if you didn't know what cyanotype was, because you're assuming that it's supposed to look like what they had in their hand, but that's not how it's supposed to turn out. Of course, RM is really taking over, and he seems to be what I keep talking about recently. My bias keeps changing. Right now it's RM. I just think he's so clever. I've been reacting to some of the songs on Indigo, and there's currently an open $1 tier if you're interested in signing up, and then also fangirling with me. I'd love to see you there. But anywho, there also have been some older Jung Kook stories that have also been circulating in the news, and I have some thoughts as well. He hasn't been doing anything that has been causing headlines, but older stuff stuff seems to be debated recently. Back when Jung Kook was traveling to New York for the UN, people were scared that Jung Kook was getting a lot of harassment. This wouldn't be uncommon, and Jung Kook had talked recently about getting random phone calls, and he felt like he was being stalked. There's other possibilities other than stalking, but it's very likely it could have been as he is a celebrity, right? And Jung Kook has made it very clear to ARMY that he does not like this. During his time at the airport going to New York, there were tons of paparazzi snapping pictures as I believe they were waiting for security or something. That could be inaccurate though, but my theory is that of course this is necessary for them to wait, as anyone who is in front of BTS could potentially be stalkers or not have legitimate reasons other than stalking to fly. So security could be there for BTS's safety, which is why they were halted. In normal situations, you would think that they would be rushed through. Several people were upset when footage was seen that Jung Kook appeared scared or tired. He looked towards the media and the many flashes at him and then turned away, and people were saying that he was using Taeyang as a shield to shield himself from the paparazzi. Now, I won't lie, it looks like he's tired and he doesn't want to deal with that right now, but I don't think he's more tired than any other situation. I think him being tired could be a result of why is this taking so long? Like when you rest your head on your family or whoever while waiting in a waiting room to get your haircut or doctor's appointment. I think the narrative is always that BTS members are mistreated or upset at everyone, and BTS members are always the victim. The paparazzi, as I've mentioned many times, are called to go to the airport. BTS knows that the paparazzi will be there. There is no surprise when they show up. And BTS, especially in a situation like this, is going to want media coverage to be there so they can document BTS literally going to the UN. Like such an iconic moment. BTS, the most popular, successful, and probably richest Asian artists in the world, are not victims most of the time. I get upset at this because the people angry at the quote-unquote bad treatment that BTS gets probably have colleagues or friends or acquaintances that they know that are either depressed or borderline suicidal, and some of them could have a reason to be those things. But these people's energies are going towards a celebrity who doesn't really need the support in this situation. Go support a friend and get off Twitter. Twitter, or the Tweetster, has been exploding with some interesting news lately. Twitter is a good place for trendy topics as it tends to update in real time, and we get to see that apparently South Korea launched some missiles or shots, and this is scary because we as the world right now are not in a good place. We are coming out of a very scary pandemic with high inflation, war is breaking out in places, and now we are at record low temperatures. These last few years have not been great. Let's just be real about it. And all of these things affect people globally. It's become difficult for even a super rich person who usually wouldn't be affected by any global change to not notice these things that have been happening. And then now apparently North Korea sent over some drones to South Korea, which is scary, like why? And then South Korea declared that this was like espionage or invasion of security for South Korea, and South Korea fired 100 shots to destroy these drones. People were terrified that this was happening, wondering why North Korea needed to send over drones, because they were planning an attack or just trying to make sure they attack when South Korea is the weakest. Like, what is the reason? Of course, this comes at a terrible time for the ARMY fandom, as if they do go to war, it's probably the group that Jin is in. However, I feel like Jin would probably escape. I don't think anyone would blame him for not wanting to be in a war, but I also have hope and faith that nothing will happen. There has been ongoing tension between the North and South for many, many years, and let's be real here, South Korea has many allies. If a war were to break out, I don't think North Korea would survive. They're smaller, and I don't think the North has many allies. So if they wanted a war, it's probably not going to work. And if it does happen, Jin, you are welcome to hide in my basement. It would be a nice basement. I will go all out and make it a den for you with a pool table and big TV. And I'm sure any ARMY in America would do the same for you. Let me know what you think, and make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.